guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be making this crochet star, and I'm going to be making two of these so that we can make a little star bikini top. And I'm basically just using some scrap yarn. This is Impeccable by Loops and Threads, 5mm hook, and it's like a size 4 medium. And this is just a cherry yarn, and I believe it's just an acrylic. So basically any yarn will work for this top as long as you use the appropriate hook size. So go ahead and gather those supplies and we'll get started. So we're going to start by making our slip knot, and then we're going to do a chain of 4, and then we're going to join to that first stitch that we did to kind of close off this loop here. And we're going to work in the middle of this loop here. First we'll chain up 3, and we're going to be doing these like these double crochet clusters. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the middle here. We're going to yarn over to pull up a loop. So we have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2 only, and you're left with 2 loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over again, go through the center of our loop, yarn over to pull up another loop. So we have 4. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, and we have 3 remaining loops on our hook here. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So this is what our first little cluster will look like here. We're going to chain 2 just to separate our clusters, and then we're going to do another little cluster group. So we're going to yarn over, go through our loop here, yarn over, pull up a loop, and remember we're going to just pull through 2. I'm going to yarn over again, go through the center, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 again. Now we want to get to where we have 4 loops on our hook, so we're going to do that one more time. Yarn over, go through the center, pull up a loop, go through 2 of the loops only. Now we have 4. We're going to yarn over, pull through all 4. So you can see our first beginning cluster, the chain 2, and then the next cluster that we made. We're going to chain 2 again. We want to do 5 of these clusters total. So go ahead and just repeat with that yarning over, going through the center, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, same thing, yarn over, go through the center, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we have 3, we need to get 1 more loop on there, so we're going to yarn over, go through the center, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, now we have the 4. So we can yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 2. So we have 3 clusters. We need to do that 2 more times, and I'll meet you at the end here. Okay, so we have our 5 clusters separated with chain 2s. So for your last part, don't forget to chain the 2, and we're just gonna join to the top of the first cluster that we made with a slip stitch. Just go ahead in the top there and pull through and pull through, and you could even pull the yarn in the back here to close off that center part. So you're going to want to slip stitch to your first little chain 2 space here, and then we're just going to chain up 3. So our first clusters will always look a little different than our other clusters. So to begin, we're just going to yarn over, go into this space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 of the loops, yarn over, go through the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And now we have 3 on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through all 3. And that's how our beginning clusters will always look. So we're just going to chain 2. And in our same space here, we're going to make another cluster. We're just going to yarn over and go through that space. And we keep doing those yarn over, pull through 2s until we get the 4 loops on our hook, and then pull through all 4 and chain 2. So this is what our first little space will look like. It has those 2 clusters separated by that chain 2. We're going to do that in every space around here, so go ahead and yarn over, go through your space, yarn over, pull through 2, go through the space again, just pull through 2 loops. We have 3 loops, we want to get to 4, and then pull through all 4, chain 2 in that same space, make an identical little cluster, and chain 2 to get to your next space. So go ahead and do that in every space around, just doing those 2 clusters separated by that chain 2, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so here's what you should be left with after you put those 2 clusters in every space around. So what you want to do is make sure that you chain 2 before finishing. So you're going to slip stitch into the top of that first cluster here, and that should close off that round. And then what you'll want to do is an identical round. There's just more spaces this time, so we're going to hop over to our next space here with a slip stitch. We're going to chain up 3, and remember we're just doing that funky little beginning cluster that's only going to leave us with the 3 loops on our hook. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So chain 2 in that same space. We're just going to do a normal cluster, and chain 2 to jump over to your next space. So in every space around, you're going to put that cluster, chain 2, another cluster, chain 2, and jump over to the next space. So just in each space around, you're going to have one of these guys, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so this is what we're left with after we finish putting the 2 clusters in every space around. You're going to want to end with a chain 2 so that you could slip stitch to the top of your first cluster here. Ooh, I got a little tangled. And now we're going to start working on the points of the star. So we're going to slip stitch into that next space. We're going to chain up 3. We're going to make that funky beginning cluster that only has the 3 loops, and we're going to pull through all 3. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to start one of our points in the next space. So go ahead and start to make a cluster here, just a normal cluster where you're ending up with the 4 loops on your hook here. Chain 2 in that same space, another cluster, now we're going to chain 4, and in that same space we're going to do another 2 clusters here. So we're going to do our 1 cluster, with the 4 loops. We're going to chain 2, and in that same space put another normal cluster. So you could see this is where we did that chain of 4, and this is our little cluster separated by the chain of 4 here. So in this next space, we're just going to put 1 cluster. So we have to chain 2. and do a normal singular cluster here. We're going to chain 2, but this next space we're going to just skip over that one. So we're going to put a single cluster into this next space. So skip 1 and just put 1 cluster into this next space. Chain 2, and you could see this little skipped over one here. But in this next space we're going to do another point. So that entails doing 1 cluster. Chain 2. Same space, we're doing another cluster. Chain 4. One cluster in that same space. Chain 2. And then 1 more cluster in that same space. And chain 2. So there's your other point. So in this next space, we're just going to do a singular cluster. Chain 2. Let's skip over this next one and put a singular cluster here and then your point. So just go ahead and repeat that pattern. So skip, singular cluster, chain 2, and then this next one do your point. So just repeat that all the way around until you have the 5 points. Okay, so this is the end of that row. So you're going to want to skip this last space here. So just make sure that you chain 2, skip over that space, and then join to your first cluster of the row here with a slip knot or slip stitch. So definitely feel free to leave it this size. You could make it as skimpy as you want or as full coverage as you want. So if you want to leave it like this, go ahead and just fasten off and leave it this size. Otherwise, if you want to continue to grow the star, you're just going to repeat this same kind of concept around. So in any normal space, you're going to make sure that you're just doing a singular cluster. So to start, you slip stitch over to this, you chain up 3, you do that odd little beginning cluster where you're just left with those 3 loops here, pull through all 3, chain 2. So we're coming on just a normal space right here. And you know it's a normal space because it's not that chain 4 space. It's just a regular chain 2 space, and you're just going to make 1 singular cluster. So as your star grows in size, you're going to notice more of these spaces that you'll need to add clusters into, but just treat them how you would any other space, just with that singular cluster here. The ones that you've skipped in the previous round, you're going to skip every time. So I'll show you what I mean. So we did our normal clusters in those spaces. Whenever we come to our pointed space, we just want to repeat the 2 clusters that are separated by the chain 2. So let's just do 1 cluster here, chain 2. In that same space, we're just doing another cluster. And then we're going to separate our next 2 clusters with a chain of 4. We're going to do another singular cluster in that same space. Chain 2 in that same space, another cluster. Chain 2. So all of the points will have that repeating sequence. We come across a normal space right here. We're just going to put one singular cluster. Chain 2. We have another normal space right here. And you'll start to notice where the skipped spaces are because it kind of just like angles to it. So after we do that, we chain 2, but you could see like the previous rows clusters are kind of like angling in towards each other because we had skipped this. So you're gonna just put your next cluster into this space, always skipping the space on each side. And we're just working our way to the points. Here's a normal space here. Just put your regular singular cluster there. And hopefully you could start to see this pattern. Now this is our chain 4 space. We want to do that cluster, chain 2, cluster, chain 4, cluster, chain 2, cluster, chain 2, and then go to your next space, but always skipping that skipped space there. And then you'll just finish off the row by making sure that you skip this chain 2 and slip stitch into here. So you can keep growing this as much as you like, but just make 2 of them so that we could end up making our bikini. And definitely feel free to line these if you don't want them to show so much, because there are a lot of spaces here, or you could wear pasties, or you can just be risque and keep it how it is. But I'm going to finish this star and then I'll show you how we're going to make some straps. Okay guys, so after we finish our star shape, we're going to want to make these straps. So we're going to do that by joining our yarn into these chain 4 spaces at the point of each edge here. So for 3 of them, you're going to want to do smaller straps. So I did about 19 inches because 2 of them will tie around the neck, and then this one will go around the back to meet with the other star. And then for these bottom 2, you're going to want to double the length of what you did for these top straps. So for the top ones I did 19 inches, for the bottom I did about like 37 inches. So these will actually wrap around your torso. So you kind of want to measure it against your body to see what would work best for you, but I'll do a try on and show you where all of these are going to be tied at. So we're going to tie this top now. So I have my 1, 2, 3 shortest straps up top here, and then the 2 longest dangling towards the bottom. So the easiest way to start would be to take the 2 straps that would go around your neck and just secure that to where you would want this top to lie. Tie a nice little bow. And then I took these straps in front here. I kind of just crisscross them, or you could do another cross there and give that a tie. And really there's so many different ways that you could do this. We'll play with that in a second. These could just tie around your back like a normal bikini top would tie. And then we have our 2 longest ties that will end up going around our torso. So if we take the ones right here, they could crisscross and then go around the torso. Oh, I'm getting a little tangled. So we'll leave these out. So we're crisscrossing in the back. We could bring it to the front and give it a little tie right here. And then with our last long straps, we could bring it around the back, come to the front, do a nice little cute crisscross here, here, wherever, and give it a tie in the back. And that looks really adorable. If you want to avoid this little buckling here, there's a different way that you could tie it if you don't fill out this cup like I'm not doing. So what you could end up doing is taking the strap that you tied behind your back like a bikini top and that first tie that we did around the neck and you could actually join those together to get more of a lift. So if we're taking opposites here, this would cross across your back and meet with this guy, and you might need some assistance. So if you're not flexible and you can't tie that yourself, then get a little help. And then similarly with these two, they could cross in the back and tie together as well. So just play around with it and get some really cool wraps, or you can either layer it like this or wear it on bearskin, but it looks really cute regardless.